And we're back here with Alec Dinkoff, voice actor, and Steve Todd, creator and founder of Open Sourced Workplace, to answer topical questions in today's workplace. Speaking of which, let's dive right in. I just read Employee Experience Journey Mapping on Open Sourced Workplace. It goes into depth studying the journey of two new employees and what was expected, what they thought would happen, and what really changed over their first 6 months. I just want to touch base with you and see how important is an employee's first week.
It's a great, it's a really great question. It's a great article because there's so much depth about the importance of actually employee journey mapping the onboarding process. And that first week can make or break an employee when they're in the organization. So you think about your first day, you walk in, you meet your manager, you get told about, HR walk you through the processes, the facility managers walk you through their building. You meet your manager, you meet your team, your technology is all there for you. You log in, your access to the system, everything is perfect. You take that experience versus everything's all over the place. Your technology's not there, your phone's not there, your manager's traveling, whatever that is. You take those two experiences. What is the perspective that employee is going to have on the organization as one? Two, you as a manager, and three is basically as a team and a process. It is critical to understand, really what are the great things that actually the employee's first week walks into, and it's a very important process that I think most organizations, they spend a lot of time trying to ensure the employee onboarding process is efficient. And also the employee is well informed. You think in the US, the amount of things you have to go through, health insurance, 401ks, benefits, and others, the other nice things that most organizations do provide, that takes time. And to articulate that in a systematic process and a systematic way is really, really important. The other thing to understand is, a lot of organizations do really well in one location or two locations, but we have got multiple locations. How do you do that? And how do you think about that? And is it consistent all over for every other location? And then the other one is, what if you have an employee who's starting and is working from home? How do you onboard that employee? What process do you have in place? And what sort of experience do they need to have? Because again, right, so yes, their access to all the technologies into your infrastructure, and it's a really, really critical thing. So that first week can make or break an employee.
Perfect. So if the first week is so important, would you say getting employee feedback in the hiring and training process is also important?
Absolutely. Getting the employee feedback, also getting the hiring manager feedback. There's two aspects to it, because there's the experience you as a hiring manager. There's also the experience of an HR person who's been involved in the process. So they're evaluating the candidate's onboarding process, the hiring manager's process, but also the company's overall process that the hiring manager or the HR representative actually is going to be responsible for and help facilitate. As a hiring manager, what did you think the process was like? How easy was it for you to navigate through that process? And then from the employee's perspective, when we get the feedback on the first week, this is also a great opportunity to get back on what was the job application process like? What was the interview process like? What were all those other things that you went through, and how could we make it better? Yes, okay, you've been successful, but just because a candidate was successful doesn't mean they truly enjoyed the experience. Right. So how do you then make that a better experience? But getting the employee feedback is critical. And again, then looking at it on an aggregate level, going back to the previous question. So how do you ensure there is consistency through various locations, through various hiring managers, departments, and also HR people who onboard people? How is those different experiences, so you can ensure that there is a program that is consistent, so everyone knows what to expect day one. Day one, 9 o'clock, this happens, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and then day two, this is what happens, that's what happens. And just so that the organization as a whole onboards employees, because it's so critical that they love that experience.
Perfect. Yeah, I think I agree wholeheartedly. Which kind of touches on something else the article put into perspective. They talked about how journey mapping the employee's experience led to understanding what's bad and needs changed, what's good and should be kept and continued, and certain things that led to questions for those coming into the company. So you would agree that both the positives and negatives for the onboarding process need to be defined so you can continue to improve and keep what's already working?
Absolutely. I mean, we go back to the answer to the previous question. Not everyone's experience is going to be the same. Geography is going to determine what one's expectations are of the hiring process. So I think it's important that you do get the pros and cons, because what may be a pro at one location may be a con at the other, and you want to get those things, and then you want to level set them across the different locations so that as an organization you do know what to expect if it is different in geographies. And it really is important to understand. And again, this is such an important time for the employee to give their feedback. And you want to understand what's working well. Why did that work well? What was the process behind that worked well? Sometimes it just may be a follow-up email. It could be a letter they receive in the mail. Who knows? It could be a phone call from that hiring manager. What are the little bits that actually give that employee the experience that whenever they come in, they feel welcome from day one? And obviously we talk about the negatives, and the negatives are, these are opportunities to learn and make the experience better for someone else. And whenever you collect this information, the important thing is to pull it together and look at it across the whole process, and then learn to improve as we go along. The process is never going to be perfect, but there's always things you can do to enhance and better. And again, it's also an opportunity for the HR department to evaluate who are their hiring managers responsible, how are the hiring managers within the business units, who are really good hiring managers and maybe who are not, and then and obviously the employee feedback is really important. But I would also again go back to make sure that you understand the pros and cons from the hiring manager's perspective as well, because it is a two-way street.
Great. That's a great perspective, Steve. Thank you very much for the insight. For everyone watching and joining us, we're here every week. Like, share, subscribe, share on your social platforms. We'd love to make new friends and have them join the show. Until then, we'll see you next week.